This small shift changes everything. So instead of chasing clients, you're starting to attract the right ones. Instead of selling, you're starting to guide. You're starting to help people buy from you. Okay? Because remember, the best salespeople today, they're not pushy. They are just the best at helping people make the right decisions for themselves. Welcome to Girls Make Bank, the podcast show for women who want to learn the art of selling for business and for life. I'm Jac White, seasoned sales professional, entrepreneur, and owner of Honeybees Group. Come back each week to hear inspiring stories from some of our favorite business owners. Learn how to take the ache out of selling and make bank. We're all in this together, so let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Girls Make Bank. This is the podcast that is all about teaching you how to sell with authority, with ease, with grace. I'm Jac White, your host and sales coach. I'm so happy you're here, and I cannot, all right, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but have you ever heard the phrase, always be closing? ABC, always be closing. Oh, it's so cheesy. It gives me like total ick. And it's been drilled into us that that is what selling is really about, right? It's pushing hard, it's convincing, it's closing the deal at any cost. That's why so many of us repel the idea of sales. But what if I told you that the best salespeople today are actually doing the opposite? Okay? They're not focused on high pressure selling. What they're focused on instead is creating an opportunity for people to buy. Do you see how we just flipped that around? Here's the thing. 80% of people research online before they ever make a purchase. So think about the last purchase you made, whether it was a big purchase, a small purchase, a product, a service, whether you hired someone. Chances are before you even talk to them, you read all of the reviews, maybe you got a referral, you checked out their competitors, you formed an opinion, right? You showed up already knowing everything about them. So when people come to you and they buy from you, it's the same thing. So if you're selling like it's 1995, ABC, always be closing, you are doing it wrong, okay? Today's buyers do not need to be convinced. They need to be empowered. So that is what we are going to talk about today. We're going to take a trip through the history of sales from the high pressure, like boiler room style days to the consultative sales era, which is the time I grew up in sales. And then we're going to talk about how people are selling and buying today. And then stick around because at the end, like always, I'm going to give you one thing to do this week to make sales feel easier and more natural. So let's start and go back in time. So let's say 1985. I was just a little girl running around on the playground. And let's say there's a salesperson named John. No offense to anybody named John. This is just illustrative purposes only. John sits in a high pressure sales office. This is like height of the boiler room era. And what do you think about when you hear that boiler room era? I think about Wolf of Wall Street, old car salesman, right? Like surrounded by phones, ringing off the hook, wearing a suit. Maybe it's a little too tight, doesn't fit quite right, sweating. He needs to close as many deals as possible because his paycheck depends on it. So John actually doesn't care if what he's selling is right for the consumer. All he wants you to do is say yes. So what is he saying? He's saying things like, what's it going to take to get, you to sign this deal? And I can only offer you this price for the next hour. If you walk away now, you're going to regret it forever. So gross. And you think like, that would never work today. But here is like what's totally wild is that used to work. Back then, that's the way people sold. And the reason is buyers didn't have a lot of options. If they wanted information, they had to talk to John. There was no Google, there were no reviews, there was no YouTube videos saying like pros and cons of everybody's business, there was no website, there was no social media, right? Like people had to talk to John if they wanted information. They had to go into a store or a dealership or whatever it was if they wanted to buy, and that's where John was. So this style of selling mostly went away in like the early 2000s as the internet became more prevalent because now the power dynamic started shifting, right? Suddenly people didn't need to talk to John in order to get information. They could do their own research. So they could compare prices, they could read reviews, and because of that, sales tactics had to change. That high pressure sales tactic kind of had to go away. And then people weren't buying based on these high pressure sales situations. They were buying based on trust. And so that entered, because of that, we entered this whole new sales era called consultative sales. And that's the era that I grew up in. So as we make this huge shift in the way people sell, salespeople were acting more really like advisors instead of pushy sellers, right? Instead of just closing, it was really all about asking the right questions, listening to the customer's pain points, positioning yourself as a trusted expert. And I would say that in so many ways, this is still the way we should be selling. Now, because of the time, I think I started selling in my first sales-ish role was 2004. I mean, the internet certainly existed, but there was still very limited information. And so buyers still needed to talk to a salesperson in order to help navigate the options and understand what was possible. And the salespeople were really still the gatekeepers of the information. But fast forward to today, and we are now in a completely different landscape. So not only did the internet just give people access to information, it gave them access to control. So right now, before a buyer even talks to you, they've already researched your business online, checked out your competitors, have read your reviews. They notice if you don't have any reviews. They watched a YouTube video. They know so much about you and what you do before they even come to the table. Now, I did an episode around visibility and why visibility is super important in your business. This is where visibility is really important. You have to be out there. You have to be searchable in order for people to find you and to buy from you. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back. We'll link it in the notes and check it out. One thing I want to say about the sales era is as we've moved into the sales era that we're in today, we talk about how trends are like cyclical. I feel like we have backtracked quite a bit, and there's this new boiler room era going around in sales. If you've ever scrolled through social media and you get an ad for some online coach or product or, something that says you have to, purchase this within a limited amount of time. You have to sign up right now or you're going to regret it. If you don't do it, whatever it is, I'm so grossed out by that. I feel like that's the new era of the boiler room sales tactics. I can't stand it. I think it's so emotionally manipulative and predatory. It's one of the big reasons why I started the Honeybee Sales Circle was to sort of get people away from thinking that they needed that kind of style in order to sell. So, okay, getting off my soapbox. When we think, a little bit of a tangent there, when we think about selling today, because the people who come to us already have so much information, yes, there's some education that needs to happen, but more than education, they're looking for confirmation. They're looking for reassurance that they're making the right choice by choosing me. So that your job actually isn't to sell and persuade anymore. Okay, well, this is a podcast all about selling. So, what do I mean by that? It means you have to facilitate the buying decision. Okay, by the time people come to you, they already know that they need to buy something. They already know they have a problem to solve, and they've already researched several solutions. So, the role of a salesperson today is not to convince people to buy from you. It's actually to facilitate a buying decision. So the best salespeople are not convincing, they're removing friction. They're helping people buy with confidence. So you need to think about how you can create the right environment where buying is the next logical step. Okay, so what does that include? The new selling model is show, don't tell. So it is all about providing value upfront, whether that's free content, workshops, case studies, social proof. You need to show that the proof is in the pudding instead of just talking about it. The second thing you need to do is you need to make it easy to buy. Transparent pricing, clear offers, and simple next steps. I can't tell you how many times I have gone to hire people to help me, whether it's in my business or in my personal life, or to buy a product and service. And it's like full of friction. Click on this button, fill out this form, do this, and then do this and do this. Make it as easy as possible. The third thing you need to do is you need to be where they are. And where they are is online. Buyers are looking for answers online, and you need to position yourself as the go-to resource. Like I said, if you didn't listen to the visibility episode yet, go back and do that next. And the fourth thing you need to do is you need to reframe sales. You need to reframe how you think about sales. Stop thinking of it as closing and start thinking of it as creating an opportunity for people to buy from you. Okay? So here is the big takeaway. People want to buy, but they don't want to feel sold to. So it is your job to make buying easy. And I want to leave you with one thing to do this week to put into practice. Okay? It's going to be about content. Create one piece of content that makes it easier for someone to buy from you. Now, think about who your ideal client is. What's something they Google before they hire someone like you? Think about it. What is that phrase? What's that question? What is that search that they put into Google before they hire someone like you? Now, once you have that thing, create a piece of content that answers that question. It could be a helpful post, a video, a blog, a tweet, a post, whatever it is. Answer the common question or concern that they have, and then make it easy for them to take the next step. Include a simple call to action. DM if this sounds like you. Book a free minute chat. Email me here. Comment on this. All right. So this small shift changes everything. So instead of chasing clients, you're starting to attract the right ones. Instead of selling, you're starting to guide. You're starting to help people buy from you. Okay. Because remember, the best salespeople today, they're not pushy. They are just the best at helping people make the right decisions for themselves. So that is your homework for the week. I would love to hear how it works for you. Tag me, DM me, connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. Until next time, let's make bank. Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Make Bank. If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe, like, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Please review and share our show to help spread the word and help your girls make bank. And I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, or visit honeybeesgroup.co. Until next time, friends.